Dear students, today we will discuss about over exploitation of natural resources. The points which we are going to cover will be definitions of the various resources, reasons of the over exploitation, misuse of technology, discussion about long-term problems and the options available to regain the lost resources and regeneration, and finally we will conclude with the learnings. So we will start one by one. First we will discuss about agriculture and natural resources. All of us are aware that agriculture is the basic thing for survival of human beings. Whether it is commercial agriculture or it is natural plants or forest, anything, we require plants for our food. And even carnivore animals who depend on meat, ultimately they cannot survive without vegetation, because the herbivorous animals which they eat finally depend on the herbs and plants for their survival. And agriculture is, as all of us are aware, it is oldest economic activity. The human beings first started agriculture as a profession, and it was the economic activity, and the things were exchanged on the basis of food articles since beginning, and trade and commerce started in this way in rural areas and human settlements. And in the modern days, agriculture is linked to political freedom. Unless and until we are self-sufficient in food, our political freedom is not guaranteed. So therefore, our Prime Minister, late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, she started Green Revolution in India so that India could be self-sufficient in food and we are not dependent on any other nation for supply of food articles, and nobody can threaten us or blackmail us on the basis of food. Whether it is army, whether it is general public, anything, any movement, anything cannot survive without the agriculture, basic agriculture activity. And particularly in India, where most of the population is still living in villages, agriculture is very important, and the resources on which agriculture is dependent, they are also very important. So the Green Revolution has few components. That was intensive use of soil and water, use of high yielding varieties, application of technology which was not earlier available for growing food, crops, and it was brought to various areas where water was available. So Green Revolution was most prevalent in northern India and some part of southern India where there was assured irrigation. So Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, they were most benefited by Green Revolution. But we failed to measure the long-term effects of the various methods which were being used, and the farmers were not trained properly for using these tools for increasing the production. Impact of the technology which was used for Green Revolution, it was not monitored by the qualified scientists about their long-term effects. And now when the problem has arisen, these impacts are being discussed at every forum, every conference, and we want to regain the resources now. And we are trying and making efforts to regain the lost resources. So first we will discuss about the resources which are pertaining to agriculture. They are nothing new. All of us are aware: soil, water, air, forests, and genetic base. They are the main resources which are required for any agriculture activity. And these factors are not independent. Each and every factor is linked to each other, and any change or anything which affects one of the component will ultimately affect the other component also. First we will start with soils and fertilizers. What is the role of soil? All of us are aware, soil provides nutrients to the plant, it provides base to the plant, the roots are embedded in the soil, water is absorbed through soil, and traditionally in India and also in other countries, whether of South Asia, the methods which were followed for cultivation, they were holistic, and before any industrial or green revolution, the farming was organic farming without any effort. Though today we are making efforts for organic farming, earlier it was a natural organic farming. Crop cycling, crop rotation, biofertilizers, they were in practice without any instruction or any education by government. People were following these crop cycles, crops were rotated, they were taking different crops one by one so that soil fertility is maintained. And this type of wheat rice scenario or sugarcane scenario was not at all there. Coarse grains were produced in every part of India and they were part of our eating habits. The old methods were not using any chemicals, any pesticides, and they preserved the fertility of the soil, biodiversity of nation, and also the groundwater. Because our crops were not water intensive, so water was not lost. And all of us are aware that India is one of the centers of biodiversity. We have lot of varieties of herbs, lot of varieties of animals, many varieties of medicines, many medicinal plants, many varieties of birds, animals, insects, everything. It is one of the 12 centers of biodiversity. Many rare plants which are used for treatment of various diseases, they are found in India. Now, after Green Revolution, high yielding varieties were replaced and the original gene pool, original grains and original plants were replaced one by one and high yielding varieties were started. Farmers started using high yielding varieties because of the profits. These high yielding varieties were developed in foreign countries. They were not locally tolerant. So we required large dose of fertilizers and large dose of water for output. And we started with the taking same crop again and again without any crop rotation, which affected the quality of the soil. And slowly the natural fertility of the soil was lost and there was no production without putting chemical fertilizers, and the position is today worse. In some part of the country there is no production unless and until you put urea, NPK or other fertilizers. The atmospheric pollution which is resulted from overuse of fertilizers is tremendous. As all of us are aware that 40% of the nitrogen applied through urea is lost through nitrogen loss mechanism. The nitrogen is lost and it ultimately pollutes. The organic matter is not present in the soil nowadays because we are not putting organic fertilizers, we are not putting manures and compost. So the organic matter is lost, the soil is becoming light, especially Punjab, Haryana, UP, Western UP, part of the South India like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, some parts of Maharashtra, there is no vegetative material present in the soil. And what is the effect? The effect is reduced activity of microorganisms. As you are all aware, the microorganisms are required for fertility of the soil. They regenerate the fertility of the soil. The importance of these organic manures and organic fertilizers is well known, and we have to replace chemical fertilizers now. Time has come. We will discuss about that also. Another aspect of the Green Revolution, it was irrigation. All of us are aware irrigation is a lifeline of the agriculture. Without irrigation, plants cannot survive. In earlier days, the main source of irrigation was rain, and other source of irrigation were wells, ponds, etc. When we planted water intensive varieties, we required more and more water. So tube wells were there. Tube wells started supplying water, and this resulted in high water supply to the fields, and drainage arrangements were not made. So the water logging started. Providing irrigation was not cheap. The running of tube well consumes diesel or electricity, so it came with a cost. And also, when over irrigated fields were there, the salts started coming up, and they started affecting the soil quality. The soil is becoming alkaline, and sometimes it is affected with other chemicals which are present in the underground. So over irrigation is not only degrading our soil, but it is losing the wealth of the nation also in form of resources like overconsumption of fuels and also loss of the scarce water. Another aspect of the soil was erosion and degradation, because erosion and degradation makes the soil useless. The topsoil is lost through erosion, and the topsoil cannot be replaced immediately. It takes hundreds of years to replace topsoil, and water and wind, which are the main sources for any plant life, they are also main sources for any erosion. Because of our mistakes, the water and wind, they are, instead of providing life to the farm, they are now becoming agent of soil erosion. Because of loss of vegetation cover, the soil is lost after heavy rains, and because of loss of organic matter, the soil is becoming light, and this light soil is eroded by winds. In hilly areas where vegetation is not there, if vegetation is not present, the velocity of water is very high after rains, and it results in erosion of the soil. So every inch of soil, which takes about 300 years to make, is lost in hours if the rain is very high and no vegetation is there. We have cleared lot of lands for human settlements. Lot of land which is cleared for human settlement has no vegetation, and the water after rains reaches the catchment area and ultimately to rivers, and this water is transferred to the reservoirs in very quickly. This results in erosion of the soil. The 50% of the land is degraded due to erosion. There are ways to reclaim these soils, but it is not easy and it is very costly method. We will discuss about that also later on when we will discuss about the reclamation of lost resources. The overgrazing is again a problem. All of us know that our country has highest population of cattle. More than 200 million cattle are there, and they have to be supported on agro waste or grass or regular pastures, but we don't have area to support these cattle. Our country has more cattle as compared to the resources which can support them. The farmers or owners of the cattle, they push them to the pastures or forest or nearby fields for grazing, and these animals sometimes overgraze the area, and they even eat up to the root system of the plants and grass, and the land become total vegetation free, and in case of rain the soil is degraded immediately because of the loss through water. Animals like goat and sheep, they cause irreparable loss because their eating habits are different from other animals, and they eat grass up to the root. There is a lot of frequent unrest between local people and forest officials. Then forest fires are also there because of greedy owners of the cattle, because they want to clear the earlier grass, they just burn the grass, and sometimes this burning reaches to the plants and trees, and the entire forest is burnt within hours. And this is also one of the effects. Leaf burning by the owners of cattle is another problem. It is not only causing air pollution, but it is causing forest fires also. Water is another component of natural resource. It is like air, one of the important factors to sustain any life. It is available to us in various forms. Rain is one of the forms. Rivers, ponds, lakes, and groundwater. Seawater is not useful for us as far as drinking or agriculture is concerned. And importance of water for human life cannot be deliberated, and all of us know that our civilizations developed around rivers, they developed around lakes, and some of the most important cities developed around sea. Natural water is coming in form of rain, and whether it is river, whether it is another thing, ponds or lake, they ultimately depend on rainwater. So we had no other option but to store, conserve the water for future purpose or for areas where water is not available. So since beginning we started constructing ponds or dams or bowlies or other structures to conserve and store the water. In ancient civilizations you will find there were ways to transport water, there were drains, there were other things to transport water from one part to another part. Slowly the technology developed, big dams, barrages were developed, and these diversion structures were used for diverting water from one area to another area in form of canals. And our country has the biggest number of canals and largest canal system in the world. And before our independence, these systems were developed by British people. And after independence also, we continued with the same. Sometimes in late 60s, we started with tube well irrigation for extracting groundwater, and it took a form of revolution in agriculture because it is tube well irrigation was a low cost irrigation, and it reached each and every farmer, it reached to every village, and it was very easy to start, low capital intensive. All types of tube wells were developed for ordinary soil, for rocky areas also tube wells were developed. And now the position is that farmers, government bodies, water supply bodies, industrialists, water selling bodies, even the bottlers, everybody is using groundwater, and there is no control over groundwater in India. Whatever legislations are made, they are not being followed, and water table is going down very fast at dangerous levels. And without considering why water table is going down, we are just increasing the depth of the tube wells to another few feet, and every year we are going down and down. The water which is coming from deep tube wells, sometimes it is mixed with the harmful chemicals and other pollutants which we were earlier not aware. And easy availability of the water from tube well is also causing water logging in some of the areas, and due to the water logging the salts are coming up and they are making our fertile land degraded, and slowly this is being recognized in all over India that water logging is causing degradation of lands. For the purpose of making canals, the river water was diverted through dams, and ultimately the water was coming from rivers only. So this caused reduction in flow of the water in the rivers, and this reduction ultimately resulted in low speed of the water, and low speed of the water resulted in sedimentation of the river bed, and the depth of the rivers is slowly getting reduced, which is causing flash floods whenever any heavy rain is there. The low speed of the water flowing in the river is also resulting in growth of water weeds and loss of aquatic life. The less availability of water is also causing water pollution in rivers. All of us are aware the rivers are being reduced to a sewer like water. Most of the towns are located near to the rivers, and the sewage which is flown into various pipes, it is ultimately reaching the rivers. The sewage is not diluted due to low flow, and this is the another problem due to canal irrigation. Air is the another source of life. Air is such a resource which cannot be depleted in quantity like water. Water table can be depleted, but air is such a resource which will always be available. But the quality of air is to be considered. The quality of air deteriorates due to pollution, and the bad air is not only harmful for us, it is harmful for plants also. The overuse of fertilizers and insecticides by farmers, it is resulting in pollution, and such pollution cannot be reversed. And all of us know that cow dung cake, which is also known as kandas, they are used for cooking food in rural area. It is causing lot of diseases to rural women, and it is also causing air pollution in villages. The farm waste which is available in surplus quantity sometimes in rural area, it is burnt, and burning causes again air pollution. Burning of leaf, burning of other things, other forest waste, other agriculture waste is causing lot of smoke, and it is ultimately causing air pollution, and it is reducing the quality of air which is available to us. Now we will consider forest. Forest is a natural resource which is not directly connected with agriculture, but indirectly it affects all of the components on which our agriculture depends. Forests are our natural allies, forests are our friends, and they are considered as boom for regenerating the nature. Now we have overexploited the forest all over the world, not only in India, and we have made the forest and agriculture as competitors, not as friends. We are using forest land, we are diverting forest land for agriculture, and we are cutting most of the forests and diverting these to the plantation crops for rehabilitation of people and other purposes. The presence of big forest, they contribute towards regulation and temperature, towards regulation of rainfall, and the regulated temperature and rainfall always affects the agriculture. Presence of moisture is also controlled by the forest. So we have to consider forest as a friend of agriculture, and we have to develop and conserve forests for conserving our agriculture and sustaining the agriculture. Everybody is talking about global warming, and forests can become a shield for the global warming. They can act as a shield against global warming, and the areas where big forests are there, the nearby people, they depend for food, fodder, fruits, wood and medicinal herbs. They take these things from forests, and from time immemorial we are collecting medicinal herbs from the forests. The productivity and quality of the soil which is available in forest, it is not available in villages or any part of the country because of continuous production of grains and other things. The quality of the soil of the forest is much better than any other soil, and the medicinal herbs which are naturally grown in the forest, they are much better in quality as compared to the forest, as compared to the medicinal herbs grown in farms. Clearing of the forest for plantation crops in many parts of the country, basically in south of India, for the purpose of plantation crops, it is also causing lot of problems. Single type of plants are being grown, and it is affecting biodiversity. Sometimes for construction of large projects, large hydroelectric projects or industrial projects, forest land is being diverted. The cutting of trees in hilly areas, it is causing barren slopes, and in case of rains, the flash floods are there, the landslides are there, and other problems are caused. For regeneration of forests, we have planted various species. Sometimes they were not locally adapted, and unscientific plantations have caused more problem to ecology. Some of the plants, they are consuming much more water, or they are not suitable for the local use. The local people are not getting any fodder, any fuel, anything from these plants. So for the regeneration of plants also, we have to be very scientific, and particularly the Himalayan ecology, which is very important for our country for water and another thing. Plantation of wrong trees has resulted in disturbance to the ecology. All of us know the case of eucalyptus, which has been planted in place of oak, or pine has been planted. Pine is also causing problem. Oak plant was used by people for fodder, and it was giving natural cover to the vegetation present below the tree, but pines are causing forest fire sometimes. So we have to be very careful about choosing species when we are going for regeneration of forests. The very important and most important point which we are going to discuss now is genetic base, because it is the only natural resource which cannot be regained once it is lost. So we have to be very careful about this thing. Our country, as all of us know, that it is a home of thousands of varieties of plants of economic importance and varieties of animals which are very important. All our Vedic literatures or scriptures, they describe the varieties of plants, varieties of animal, varieties of grains which were found in India, and their use also. The historic literature of available in Sanskrit and Pali language, they have listed the types of food grains, types of pulses, and even the types of cattle and fish varieties which are found in our country. After Green Revolution, we have replaced these varieties slowly, one by one, by the genetically modified crop varieties, and also monocultures. Most of the India, which was earlier consuming coarse grains, now it is consuming wheat or rice due to this replacement of varieties. The plants were not the only affected thing. The animal varieties were also changed. The pure genetic pool is not available. Most of the animals, for any purpose, they are crossbred animals, and local varieties are not available. What is the effect? Effect is that pure and original gene pool is not available, and until and unless it is not available, research and development cannot be done for improvement of the breeds or improvement of the plant varieties. Further research will be closed if this position will continue. Now we will discuss further about this effect of genetic problems. If we cultivate only one or two varieties, the pests will affect the cropping, and entire crop may go waste because only one or two types have been planted. So variety of crops are required for surviving such problems. Most of the varieties of the crops which at present we are using, they are not original genetic, they are either modified or foreign breeds, which were foreign varieties which were bought at the time of Green Revolution. They are fertilizer and irrigation intensive. So we have to find the ways how to get the same input from the locally adapted varieties, and we have to collect the original genes from the backward areas, hilly areas, or the areas where the effect of Green Revolution was minimum. Now we will talk about effect of insecticides and pesticides. The indiscriminate use of the pesticides and insecticides has killed the useful insecticides and useful microbes. And the useful microbes, the useful pests, they help in pollination, and the pollination is ultimately required for any type of agriculture production, because fruits will not come until and unless pollination is there. So it is causing biological imbalance. Biological imbalance is causing reduction in production of the fruits, and sometimes the orchards or other vegetable crops, they don't give proper results if the useful insects are not there, birds are not there for pollination. Now we can see the case of common ant. The common ant is useful for us in many ways. We don't know the use. How common ant help us in fields? Common ant, it can eat the larva of many of the harmful pests which affect the crop generation and cause crop diseases. So simply keeping on and conserving the ants can help us. And the ant is not the single variety. There are other varieties of the pests and insects which help us in agriculture. So we have to conserve all of them, and this will be discussed in detail in organic farming session. Now we will discuss about the root cause of overexploitation. Why we are going for overexploitation of natural resources, even though some of us are aware about the dangers, some of us are aware about the problems due to overexploitation of the natural resources. First thing is population growth. With the population growth, the demand for food is increasing, the demand for land is increasing because of the human activity, because of the economic activity. We require more and more land, more and more food. Then we have created artificial ambience for us. Artificial ambience means air conditioning, maybe other things which we require for our comfort. So we have to find the solutions. The solutions which should be sustainable and solutions which should not have any long-term effect. So we have to read following sentence. Nature can provide for our needs but not our greeds. So any solution for regeneration of our natural resources, we have to again and again read this sentence. Our emphasis should be on reversing the trend. How it can be reversed? Now we will discuss point by point. First of all, we have to consider that our solutions should be practical, eco-friendly and not energy intensive, so that it should not cause further problems, and problems should be simple, and all farmers, even uneducated people, should be able to understand how we have to go about. Now about finding the solutions, we don't have to do too much. We just have to look back what other forefathers were doing, what were the ancient practices, and what are the scientific research at present. And we have to combine both to find the solutions. Agriculture was totally chemical free, and at that time also people were surviving because of the low population. Our water bodies present in India, they were considered as sacred. We were worshipping rivers. Rivers, ponds, lakes, they were point of religious activities, and they were considered sacred. So people were not causing pollution. Trees and medicinal plants, they were part of our life, and they were also part of religious practices. So they were conserved without any disturbance. Now need of hour is to combine the technological advancement and social and political will be required for taking it further. Now we will discuss point wise how we will go about conserving each and every resource. First point we will discuss about soil, and our point will be about fertility. Most of the problems are caused by chemical fertilizers. So we have to use the chemical fertilizers very judiciously, and we have to educate the farmers through all available resources, maybe it is government, agriculture university, Krishi Vigyan Kendra or NGOs, about the proper use of the fertilizers. Another aspect which is causing overuse of fertilizers is subsidy on urea. So it has to be rationalized and it has to be restricted so that overuse of fertilizers should not take place. Subsidy on all type of fertilizers should be rationalized, and it should be seen that urea and other fertilizers are used as per requirement. Use of micronutrients, organic manure and other type of fertilizers like biofertilizers should be popularized to reduce the demand of inorganic fertilizers, and these fertilizers will not only reduce the chemical fertilizers but they will regenerate the soil fertility and make the soil organic. Integrated plant nutrient management is required, which will be a permanent solution for this problem. We will discuss it in detail in organic farming. It is also required for increasing the organic matter in the soil, which will make the soil heavier and it will not be prone to the wind and water erosion so easily. The old methods of using green manures, crop rotation, cycling of crop and using of the crop residue will be very useful in conserving the nature, and they will also improve the soil health. Another aspect for reversing the trend is reducing the quantity of water in irrigation. Like fertilizers, we have to educate the farmers, we have to educate industrialists and other users to reduce the consumption of water to the bare minimum for sustaining the agriculture or other activities. The channel which are supplying water to the fields should be repaired as a first and easiest step, because lot of water percolates to the ground through these channels. The varieties which are being used for farming should be low irrigation intensive, and these are to be developed if they are not there. The mindset of growing wheat and paddy, which is prevalent in some part of the nation, it has to be changed, and crops have to be rotated, and people have to be educated about it, and they have to follow the crop rotation, and they have to be told about the benefits of crop rotation. And our consuming habits should also revert to the old habits of consuming coarse grains, which is useful for health also. Drainage of water, it is to be provided, because at the time of providing canals or at the time of providing tube well water, we have never thought of drainage of the excess water. So we have to find the ways to drain the excess water from the fields so that water logging is not caused. And most important will be promotion of micro irrigation, which will be ultimate in reducing the water consumption and also increasing the productivity, though it will require a lot of capital for implementation, because it is a capital intensive thing. Policy framework is needed for control on groundwater use. It is present, but it has to be implemented. Then instead of digging new tube wells, we have to popularize sharing of the tube well water, selling of the tube well water by farmer to another farmer. Quality of water should be checked, and extracting poor quality of water or the water which can degrade or make the soil saline should not be allowed. Now we will discuss about erosion and degradation. None of us in the world can control the movement of wind or control the movement of water. This is controlled by nature only. So we have to find the ways how to control the erosion. Erosion cannot be reduced to zero. It is a natural process, but it has to be controlled, and we can control up to 80 to 90%. If we can achieve that, it will be ultimate. First and foremost thing which we can do for controlling erosion, it will be covering soil with green. Making every inch of the soil green is the first method, easiest method, which we can contribute towards. Anybody in the country, wherever he lives, he can contribute towards reducing erosion by covering the soil by any kind of vegetation. Recharge of groundwater, as all of us are aware, it controls the degradation by reducing the runoff and keeping the depth of tube wells low, because it increases the level of groundwater, so we don't have to go very low for extracting groundwater and getting salts in turn. We have to reclaim this land which is already affected with salinity or alkalinity, with the chemical processes which are already there, and we have to make investment on this, because the reclaimed land can be used for agriculture in future. Cattle population is a big problem for India, and we have to limit the cattle population to the level which can be sustained, and stall feeding will have to be promoted instead of leaving the cattle in the fields to graze and make the soil vegetation less. The engineering methods are there which can prevent the erosion in hilly areas, like bench terracing, check dams, plugging the gullies and contour bunding. They all require some amount of investment, some amount of technology, not very high class of technology, but low cost technological options are there which can conserve. So local soil conservation departments or agriculture universities or Krishi Vigyan Kendra, they can contribute towards it. For now we will discuss about water, which is a scarce resource and in threat. Preserving water is need of the day, it is no doubt. And first step will be preventing over irrigation, which will save the groundwater. How we will save the groundwater and surface water also, now we will discuss. First thing is to maintain the already constructed water management structures, be it dam, be it canal, weirs or reservoirs, anything. If they are not maintained, then lot of seepage will be there and water will be lost. So they have to be maintained in proper condition. The catchment of rivers from where water is coming to the reservoirs have to be given full treatment of vegetation, so that the content of the silt is very low, which will in turn keep the life of reservoirs intact, because high silt content will make the life of the reservoirs is less, and the economic life of the reservoirs will be lost due to silt. So treatment of the catchments of rivers is essential. Another thing is construction of water harvesting and recharge structures. The water harvesting and recharge structures will keep the rainwater intact at the place where the rain takes place. It will increase the water table, and it will also reduce the sudden increase in flow of natural streams. So there will be no sudden floods and no loss of water. Another thing is recharge of the groundwater will reduce the pressure on surface water which we draw from canals and rivers. Flow in canals and rivers will increase, and this increased flow will reduce the pollution. It will also give a boost to the other economic activities like aquatic fish culture or the water transport. Increase in flow of the river is also very necessary to reduce the siltation of the river beds. The use of micro irrigation technology is the ultimate in reducing the water consumption, and it will drastically cut the water requirement for irrigation, and it will also increase the productivity, which is always talked about, that by organic methods of farming we cannot keep the productivity at the present level, but the micro irrigation has shown a way that we can not only keep the present level, but we can increase the productivity of various crops by using the micro irrigation techniques. Only thing is investment of capital nature which is to be made, but if it is popularized, number of micro irrigation structures will increase, and this will further reduce the cost of production of the micro irrigation tools like drip or sprinklers. Further, now we will talk about air. air, we have to improve the quality. For this purpose, we have to use the chemical fertilizers very scientifically and reduce the free nitrogen caused by the overuse of the fertilizers. The proper processing of agro waste which is generated by any crop, it should be promoted. We can produce biogas, or we can produce many other things by proper use of the agro waste, like boards, like reconstituted board, and so many products are coming in the market which use the agro products, so they have to be popularized. Large scale plantation on wasteland will also reduce the pollution, and it will make the quality of the air very good. Now we will discuss about forests. The forests are at present competitor of the agriculture. Now we have to shift or change this mindset, and they have to be considered as friend of the agriculture. The importance of the forest has been discussed and need not be discussed again, so we will discuss about their regeneration. The communities which are living in the forest or around the forest will have to be given chance to manage and regenerate these forests, otherwise only by government departments it is not possible. We will know when we will discuss about watershed management that forest is also a component, and for any agriculture or rural development work, and it is to be integrated with other things. It should be a part of integrated management. Then any degraded land which cannot be put for agriculture, it can be used for afforestation. The degraded lands, if they cannot be used even for forestation, they can be diverted to industrial or housing use. By diverting these lands, we will save the precious agriculture or fertile land which is at present being converted for other uses. At the time of regenerating forests, we have to use only locally adapted useful varieties and not the varieties which are coming from abroad and they are not suitable for our people, our animals and our needs for fodder and fuel. The grazing of animals inside the forest should have to be completely banned by all means so that the regeneration of the forest is possible. One of the ways to control the grazing is to plant the well-developed saplings in the forest area at least 5 or 6 feet high, so that animals like goats and sheep cannot destroy it. Conservation of forests will also result in preserving the genetic base of the plants and animals. Now we will discuss about genetic base. As we have already told, the loss of genetic base is not reversible. So this is the area which is to be handled very carefully by all persons involved, including government, including local people, farmers, scientists and all others, those who have a stake in agriculture and rural development. We have to take this thing on war footing. Our plant and our animal genetic base will have to be conserved at any cost. The useful insects, birds, reptiles, wild animals, they are all useful for maintaining biological balance in the nature. As we have already discussed, integrated pest management is required to replace the chemical insecticides and chemical pesticides. We will further discuss and elaborate these points in organic farming, but presently we can discuss about the use of herbal pesticides which are not harmful for the pests which are useful, like honeybee. Honeybee is a very useful insect which not only helps us in pollination but also gives us useful product like honey. So we have to conserve the useful pests, useful insects. Another thing is biotechnology. Biotechnology can be used for developing disease resistant plant and disease resistant varieties of grains. So we will not require higher quantity of pesticides or insecticides. The biocontrol of pests is achieved by making a balance between harmful pests and their natural enemies. Local varieties of cattle which can provide both fuel, both milk and farm power should be promoted, because the crossbreed animals, the promotion of crossbreed animals have brought the local varieties to the near extinction. The local cattle can be used for pollution-free transport within the villages. We are using the animal transport system since thousands of the years, and the villagers found it very useful because the economic activities of rural area are very much dependent on proper use of animals, maybe for milk, maybe for transportation or for production of biofertilizers. Another thing is medicinal plants. The medicinal plants will have to be conserved. Because of our ancient knowledge, we use medicinal plants for curing many types of diseases, and the medicinal plants help us in curing diseases without any side effects. The present strategy should be on cultivation of herbs, the production of herbs in scientific manner, and ban on export of the extinct plant material, because of more and more export, the greedy people are cutting the herbs and they are selling without caring for the reproduction of these plants. The manufacturers of the medicines, Ayurvedic medicines and other products, they should encourage and they should team up with the farmers for production of medicinal plants and preserving the varieties of the all local medicinal plants. The biotechnology can be used for multiplying the saplings or multiplying the plants required for the purpose of manufacturing of medicines. We have to conserve all these plants which are presently grown either in forests or they are grown in fields also. So we have discussed point-wise about regeneration of various components of the nature which are presently disturbed due to overexploitation, and we have discussed about their regeneration and conservation. So now we will sum up, and following points will be discussed for summing up the entire discussion. First is a small step for conservation of any one of the natural resource will contribute towards conserving all resources, because all resources are interlinked. Water, soil, air, everything is interlinked. If we make a step for conserving one of the resource, we are contributing towards conserving all the resources. The overexploitation at present rate will result in crisis for food and drinking water. This we have to teach to our generation so that they will not indulge in overexploitation, and they should know the consequences of the overexploitation of the natural resources at present rate. Solutions are there, they are not very costly, but they require education to the people, and the political will from government for implementation. Regeneration of lost resources and conservation of existing ones is the present need, and there is no doubt about it, and we have to conserve the natural resources at all costs.
And in 50 years, in a single lifetime, the Earth has been more radically changed than by all previous generations of humanity. We have created phenomena we cannot control. Since our origins, water, air, and forms of life are intimately linked. But recently, we have broken those links. Let's face the facts. We must believe what we know. All that we have just seen is a reflection of human behavior. We have shaped the Earth in our image. We have very little time to change. How can this century carry the burden of 9 billion human beings if we refuse to be called to account for everything we alone have done?